And, like, off we go. Hey everyone, happy Monday. Thanks for joining us here on Douglas County Chamber Connect Live. Got two of my favorite gentlemen, don't tell my husband, on with me today. We are happy to have Pastor Matt McGue from Cumberland Community Church. And then we also have James Harper from First Presbyterian Church. So, hey guys, how are y'all?
Great to be with you.
Yeah, y'all doing okay?
Well, you said two of your favorite. Does that mean there's got to be a ranking here, right?
Yeah, I'm not going there. Well, maybe James and I did do Leadership Douglas together, so maybe just slightly.
Got tenure on that.
Matt has the pizza truck, and that's pretty awesome. So, yeah, well, thank you guys for joining us today. I know we're going to talk a little bit about both of your churches and kind of some unique and cool things that you've done during the pandemic. And, a lot of times people, I feel, they think, about businesses and how they've been adapting during the pandemic, but you guys have been faced with something just as significant. So I know it's been, and you guys have both come out rising on the top, as we continue to climb the mountain out of Corona. So we're just going to chat a little bit about that today. So, but first, let's start off with something a little bit, I think it's fun because I told them this before we started, y'all. So I asked them if they wanted to know the secret question and they said they didn't. So I feel like it could be really fun right now, but I'm going to keep it sweet. So, and James is going first because Matt said that we could do it this way. Only if James went first.
He's smarter than I am.
Okay. Are you ready? So it's not even scary. So, all right, James, and then Matt, you can go right after him. I want you to tell me what was the first. Okay, and I feel like most everybody on here would know about these. But what was the first tape or record that you ever purchased, and why? Like, why? What was the first one ever?
Yeah, first one. Wow, let me think. That has got to have been probably the Doobie Brothers album.
Fun. I went and saw them in concert.
Yeah, those are greatest hits, probably.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, wasn't the first song I'd ever heard. I don't remember the first song I've ever heard on the radio was a country music song, but the first album I bought, I believe, was Doobie Brothers. And to give me a little credit, they were already old at that point. I'm not definitely that old.
I saw them. They came with somebody in concert a couple years ago, and look, don't judge me. And remember, I'm a little younger, but I was like, "Who the heck are the Doobie Brothers? Like, what are they saying?" And my husband was like, "Do not tell anybody that. Like, just like that didn't happen." And so that's awesome. Yeah, and I think they're still around. Like, they're still rocking and rolling. And again,
they are.
When you bought your first album. So,
but I listened to the original ones, but they were old at that point still.
Hopefully they're not wrong.
I'm a really young person.
Yeah.
And James, I know we're friends, but I feel like now we could bond and become best friends because Doobie Brothers is in the top 3 of my choices.
All right.
Seriously.
That's awesome.
On my Pandora, I have, you can pick a station that you like to listen to over and over. And mine is the Steve Miller Band. That's
that would work too.
Right.
That would have been in there. The Eagles, Steve Miller Band, Doobie Brothers. Those were all but one of the top choices. I mean, those. I'm not sure which one came first, but that's all in like the first gathering of cassette tapes.
I don't know. I mean, y'all have kids, but like my children do not know what cassette tapes are. They're like, "What is this?" They found it when we were moving. They're like, "What is this? I don't even know." And I was like, "Don't mess it up."
Yeah. Well, they certainly don't know what 8-tracks are, and I had one of those in my first car.
Yeah, it's so great. Yeah. Well, and then think when they have kids, their kids are going to be like, "What's a CD? What's a DVD?" Like they're so outdated. Anyway, that's cool. Steve Miller Band. I love that. Love it. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. We'll talk a little shop talk for a minute. And then I want to talk so we'll kind of talk about your churches and what you guys have been doing. And then I know you guys are part of an awesome organization right here in Douglas County that I'm aware of, but I feel like a lot of the people that are listening might not be aware of. And I think that it's something that's really really powerful. And I think that it's very relevant, knowing what we've all been kind of living and breathing over the last few weeks, with everything that's been going on. Okay, let's start. So Matt, let's talk first. Matt, how are things at home? How has Corona been in the McGue household?
Yeah, it's been pretty okay. It's, the most challenging part probably is, especially in the beginning of it, my wife's a public school teacher here in Douglas County and was a Yeager middle school teacher. And when all the schools shut down, then of course, she's teaching digitally from home. And of course, and I'm having a home office at the same location. So the funniest part was lots of times she may be upstairs in a meeting on Zoom and I'd be downstairs in a meeting on Zoom. And her meetings were so much more fun than mine because she would just start busting out laughing. And I'm like, are they having a party? So I'd have to go up and say, babe, can you close the door? I'm trying to have my meeting down here with the pastors, So.
You're like, this is so weird. Like, I'm usually the one that has more fun. Yeah. But you got a glimpse of like her school life. And I just have to say, like, props to your wife, props to all the school teachers in Douglas County and beyond, because teaching your children at home is not easy. And what they do, I have super respect for, and adapting during, in days, adapting and going completely virtual with programming. It was awesome. So that's so funny. Hey, keep it down. I'm trying to have a pastor meeting. All right. James, what about you? How's the Harper clan?
I have nothing to complain about. The times of COVID and the sheltering in place. My last child we have in the house is a senior in high school. And so we didn't have any of the problems that other parents had who have smaller kids. And so I'm careful that I shouldn't say too much that make it sound like I am got really lousy complaints. I think when it started, I was kind of lost. I had a rhythm of going to the gym, and man, I like working out at the gym. And so that was strange. And I'd like to connect with people, and I was missing people. But the upside was that I got to do all my writing, sermon writings, whatever I need to do, kind of laying out by the pool, which was a lot of fun. And I really, as I was laying there, I was thinking, man, wouldn't it be rough to have to deal with kids in school right now? So I had some empathy, but it was kind of mixed with this joy of kind of hanging out, really great weather and beautiful days.
Yeah, you're like, I mean, it stinks for those, but look at my tan. You like go back.
I know. Hey, I mean, I got this.
You're like,
started, right?
Like you're sun-kissed. Like, you look awesome. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it was. And coming as one, we were talking about this earlier, as one with little people, and I mean teenagers. It was definitely a struggle. But I was talking to somebody, I forget, and wasn't it wonderful and crazy? So we had like the absolute worst weather, right? From December through February, and then Corona hits and like the sun comes out. And I mean, that's something to definitely be thankful for, because we were the same. I would work outside or we would go on walks, but the weather was actually very good.
Yeah.
That is too funny. Sunbathing.
Props to all the parents who've had to navigate, and teachers had to navigate all that. I feel really bad I wasn't suffering more with them, but
yeah, it's okay.
We know you were praying for them, James.
You were.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Crazy. Cool. So, okay, well, let's talk work a little bit. James, I know, just in following you and, and First Pres on social media, that you guys again and we had talked, James and I go to the gym together. So we talked like 2 days before things started shutting down.
Yeah.
And I remember we were already talking about, you're like, this is going to impact us and or how to pivot. So talk a little bit about some of the changes that you guys put in place and some of the new things that you're doing that you brought online that have turned around to be pretty successful.
Yeah, sure. I think you have to figure out what your DNA is, and our DNA is really pretty locked into relationships and people connecting a community. We're not a church that has a heavy online presence for live streaming presence on Sunday mornings, and so we had to figure out how to lean into what we do well and kind of pivot in the way we did it. And so as soon as we heard about things being shut down, the churches having to cancel services, we ordered an FM transmitter to prep ourselves to have what we call drive-in church. I think a lot of people have heard about it by now, but we started back on May 15th, I guess, broadcasting on 90.5 to the people who drive into the parking lot. And we have about 45-minute church service there. And we do a lot of different stuff, fun stuff, to try to make it personal while keeping people in their cars. So we would have parades. We would have decorate your car costumes. We actually had a Mother's Day, a drive like a boss mom driving obstacle course you had to go through, and never got through it the fastest. Didn't really get much of a prize, just got the notoriety of being the one who can drive like a boss mom. So that was, that's one of the chief things we did. And then we really just adapted rapidly to the live streaming. Had to upgrade what we're doing, the equipment we had. And so we shifted to parking lot services and live streaming services.
Wow. I didn't know about the obstacle courses, or I totally have been down with that. I like a good contest.
It was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, and I saw, like, I have some friends that go to your church, and they were posting pictures, like, in their vehicles with, like, donuts and coffee and all dressed up. Like, it was so sweet. I just love that. I thought that was
loved it. I mean, I'm going to be sad when we move back into the in services, because it's a lot of fun. I mean, I do trivia contests in the beginning where you honk your horn for what answer you want, but people, I mean, they're hanging their heads out of, little kids are sticking their heads out of the sunroofs of cars, which, this point we can do that. At one point at Easter, we had one of our folks came dressed like the Easter Bunny and had, drove in, standing outside their sunroof while somebody was driving. They were in the sunroof, and so we had a visit from the Easter Bunny.
Oh my God!
Through the sunroof.
That is so funny. That is well, and not that church isn't fun, but like that just adds like a whole element. And I mean, think about it. Like if you're in a car with little people, you've got to have some way to keep their attention and still be able to, preach the word. I mean, it's got to be multifaceted. It can't just be, normal church, because you've got children in the car. So I think that's very cool.
Yeah, we've had people say that, the kids just don't seem to stick with the virtual service. They really enjoy being in the car. And we do stuff with the kids too. We got stuff, we interact with them through the radio station. Mm-hmm. And so to engage them. Yeah.
Fun. All right, Matt, what about y'all? How are you guys shaking things up? And I know you guys are super immersed in the community and getting out there and doing lots of different things. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we love our community and try to engage what we call the 5 pillars of every community. So, like civic government, and we love to support our local leadership and civic government folks. And so trying to have a presence there. And of course, the educational system, the school system, and we love getting involved at the school level as much as we can. And I've had a lot of fun being with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes this last year, especially being the chaplain of Chapel Hill High School football team. I love that, and love getting to know the coaches and the students. And now they're just getting ready to get permission to come back in summer practice. So I'm excited about seeing the team again and engaging with them. And then we have our Peace Truck. It's like a mobile food truck outreach unit, we call it. We call it Peace on Wheels, mobile peace, that we take out to the community, and have adopted a apartment community and different trailer places where we go out and just love on people and encourage them and get to know kids. And so, yeah, we can't wait to kind of re-engage those efforts, especially. But during the pandemic, specifically, we started a pandemic task force, response task force. And so lay leaders in our church that had a real heart for people struggling with food insecurities and even paying some bills right now while people are laid off or even unemployed or underemployed. So that's been tremendous. Our church has raised thousands of dollars for that and been able to disperse funds, as well as started a food distribution at our Smyrna campus location, which has been tremendous, helping hundreds of families every week with food insecurity. So those kind of things have been just watching the church be the church And then another thing that we did outside of like Sunday, we're doing Sunday virtual services, which we're learning to get better and better at that. It's turned out pretty well. But we said, we want to be a church that's high tech and pay attention, because we had to be digital to do ministry. But also, we don't want to ignore the high touch, because like James Church, we're a very relational driven church. People really care for each other, befriend each other. We have small groups all over the area. And we said, we want to get beyond just the Zooming and digital stuff. So let's do high touch. So our pastoral team divided up the entire congregation of everybody's name that wasn't already in a small group or ministry team. And then we just started loving on them and calling them and checking on people and praying over the phone with folks and just saying, how are you doing? How can we help you? What's going on? How can we pray for you? So that was a real blessing, and continues to be a way just to shepherd people and love on people during a very unprecedented time in our history. Yeah. So those are a few things.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, and you guys are both in similar, I feel like this is the most common ground. Well, I mean, yeah. So like the chamber, and you guys are both really active with us, which is wonderful. We rely so much on face-to-face interaction that when you take that away, you're kind of like, wait, well, now what? Now, how do I help people generate leads for their business? How do I help people, guide them spiritually? And it's very different. But then you find things, that work, and you're like, wow, why didn't I think of that? I know James and I were talking like, why didn't we do this earlier? We've been talking about it for forever. And then you put it in motion, and then it takes off, which is great, because then you're able to touch and reach people that you might not necessarily, have been able to before, or it might be something that they're more comfortable with. So I think that's great. So cool. All right. So tell me about what you guys are planning kind of going forward as far as like coming back into the church. Are you back? Still holding out? What's that look like? James, you want to go first?
Sure. We actually started coming back in-person services on May 17th. So we've been doing it for a few weeks now. We've gone through a lot of processes to ensure it's safe, and that it's that everybody's going to be able to come with the confidence that we are doing our part to keep them safe. So we've kind of navigated a process to ensure that. So we started, it's not a huge return. In fact, we probably have 25% of our normal worshiping body coming back. And we're going to keep doing the drive-in church and really kind of make a gradual transition as numbers begin to shift. We'll begin to add live services back. But I don't like children's ministry won't come back until the end of the summer, until the school, I think, really figures out what that's going to look like, and then we'll start to bring children's ministry back in it. So it's going to be a three more months of trying to figure out just what the new normal will look like, I think, for us.
Yeah. And that's kind of, we're doing the same thing at the chamber. It's just this phased in. I always explain it like a dimmer switch, right? Like, so you come a little bit out and you're like, okay, we're good. Like, everybody's cool. We're good. Let's go a little bit further. So, and truthfully, like, the governor's been very gradual about opening things back up. And with the new orders that came out last week, I think you'll just continue to see that. But the good news is that we all know what it means to come back down if we need to. A lot better than we did 2 months ago. So what about y'all, Matt? What are y'all doing at church?
Yeah, similar situation where we're trying to phase it back in slowly. So yeah, in fact, right, the day the pandemic kind of came real public and the school shut down that day, that our pastors were in a meeting for like 3 hours having a strategy of what would we do. So we actually had a 4-color code thing that we started with: green, then yellow, then orange, then red. And it was funny, by the end of the meeting, once we heard the news, we're like, oh my gosh, we're already in red now. So we at our church, we're still in red, but we're getting ready to announce we're moving to orange, which is the next level of entry. And so that means our small groups will start being able to meet in person again. And so we're on that pathway. And, we've really cranked up our digital stuff, especially for kids ministry. They have like their own kids programming that's amazing digitally. And then our student ministry, our youth ministry, they're doing the same thing every Wednesday night digitally and having good turnouts with that. So yeah, we're real pleased with those efforts in the meantime, but we really miss our church family and we can't wait to get back together.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like we
Definitely
all did
so.
that. We went from like green to red in like
Yeah.
48 hours. I was
Yes.
at a chamber conference, and it was also my birthday when all of this went down. So I was like, I get a redo later. But we were at the conference, and some people are like, oh, we're not going to come because things might get weird. Things are starting to kind of be uncertain. And then by the end of the conference, like, we ended early. Everybody was like, half the people left early. Things had closed down. So luckily we had put all of our kind of shutting down and stuff in place as far as our events go before, but it was very much a green to red, very, very hard stop. So great. Okay, so I know that you guys are both a part of something that is really cool in our community. So, and I'm fine with whoever wants to start, but do one of you guys mind telling us about Unite Douglas and what that is and why you do it and what you guys kind of work on there?
Well,
Yeah,
Matt pretty much leads that, so he should describe that.
Yeah, I'll give a brief summary. When I moved here to the Atlantic area 2 years ago, I jumped in on a group called Unite Atlanta, and they are a collaboration of several churches. In fact, they say about themselves, they say, we're a multicultural, multi-denominational movement of churches, is how they describe themselves. And I thought, what a great concept. I love that. I love networking with other pastors and churches working together in unity. And so yeah, just over about a year ago, this time last year, I started what we call a catalyst group locally here. And so in Douglas County, we call it Unite Douglas, and it's a group of pastors from all different stripes and denominations and church sizes and backgrounds. And we just say, hey, we want to come together and practice friendship and fellowship, get to know each other, hear what God's doing in each other's congregations, and then talk about how do we unite ourselves on occasion, especially during maybe like a crisis. And this was something we said like a year ago. What if a crisis were to happen? How would we as one voice of the faith community respond? How could we do that collaboratively? And so I'm so glad we started meeting last year and had that conversation because, man, once that pandemic hit, and now a lot of the racial injustices and things are surfacing and tensions coming. It really is timely for us to come together as one body of Christ. So that, in a summary, that's who we are. And we meet monthly with pastors. And if there's anybody listening right now whose pastor maybe hasn't heard about it yet, anyone's welcome. We invite all different denominations and faiths to be a part of it.
Very cool. And James, I know you kind of participate within that group. And then, I mean, even just in regards to kind of what Matt brought up a little bit about social injustice and, all the different, people that have lost their lives lately. How has that been going within your congregations? I'm sure you guys have had messages and sermons and, conversations around all of that. What's been kind of the take that you guys have seen, from in regards to, what we're all facing right now?
Yeah, I think the message that we've tried to remind ourselves of is that this is a terribly broken world, and the brokenness is manifest in a lot of different ways, and clearly right now it is manifested in the divide over how we view one another. That is racism and the injustices that exist, and so we think that, and Matt do, and all Christians think that people are all made in the image of God. There is no distinction of value, and God holds every person with this kind of sacred value, and so it's our job to live into that, and we have to be reminded of that, and we have to be people. And we try to encourage us to be people who listen well to those who are complaining. It's hard at times to be able to listen well when folks are angry at us. Or are demonstrating that anger in different ways that we may be uncomfortable. But our job is to listen, is to kind of see through all that and listen to what the core issues are. And so we've been trying to encourage people in that process of listening to where other people are, listening to where people in the Black community are, and to continue to uphold the thing we value, which is, whether it doesn't matter what skin color you have, you are a child of God, beloved child of God. And how can we build the bridge and kind of mend this inequality that exists in our country?
Well said. Well said. Matt, you want to chime in?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I totally agree with my brother, man. And just knowing that we people of faith that love Jesus are called to be gospel centered and to lift up all people equally. Man, that is central to the gospel. It is central to the kingdom message that we have, and that we got to love all people. In fact, I always remind our people, like in the beginning was, God, and then there was Adam and Eve that he created, and then the rest of the world got populated over lots of time. And so I'm always reminding each other, like, we're all related. We all come from the very first couple, Adam and Eve. And so, I mean, we've got to remember that we're all interconnected to the family of God globally. And isn't it great that God has created us all uniquely different? And that there are different cultures and beautiful languages and expressions, even of skin tones. And so to me, I'm pigment deficient. I'm a little jealous, actually, because I'm so white. But I always like to remind myself, thank God for the variety and beauty of nature and color and flower. And God's an artist, man. And so we've got to celebrate our differences and the diversity that he's given us. And so, yeah. And then, of course, the injustices, like, we should remind ourselves that there's good and evil, and that we all have that in common, that we're all trying to fight for morals and values and what's right and decent. And when there's something that isn't right or it's wrong, then we need to lock arms and fight together for that. And that's called justice.
Love it. Love it. And I know, thank you for that. Thank you both. I love those words. That's probably why you guys do what you do, because you're really good at them. I appreciate that. And I know you guys have both been working hard with Unite Douglas, but then also are part of our chamber's diversity, equity, and inclusion committee that has been meeting and starting, it's something that's been around for a while, but has kind of already started having those conversations and bringing people to the table and bringing them together. So I appreciate you guys both being involved with that. And I look forward. I know you guys have been working on a lot of things with the DE&I committee. So I know that's, especially with you two involved, I know that we can do no wrong within that group. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So
Douglas County is a great place to be to work this out. I mean, I think it is there's just a higher level of love and unity among people that I've seen in other places. And so, I mean, I'm confident that what we do in that group, what we do in this county is going to kind of stand out above the rest.
And I mean, respect too. Like, I know I'm so proud of our community in that, there have been countless peaceful protests. And I know, Matt, I've seen you at a handful of them on social media, like people are there and engaging in a respectful way. It's peaceful. The police and public safety officials are involved. And I feel like that's a true testament to our community in that, people can speak how they want, they can communicate their beliefs and their thoughts, but do it in a way that maintains respect for everybody. So I truthfully agree with that. So, and I know you guys have a little bit of doings with that and sharing those messages. So cool. Well, we're about out of time today. I feel like that went super fast. I mean, it always does, but it was great to talk to you guys. Do you have any final words or anything that you want to say to our friends that are watching? We've got a lot of people watching today.
I want to say that we have a really fantastic chamber.
Oh.
I think you do a great job. And I brag about our chamber when I talk to pastors from other cities or people from other cities. And you guys are exceptional. I love what our chamber does. I just applaud you for doing this.
Oh, thanks, bud. I appreciate you too.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and in this time where there's so much division and tension, I love our county and our city where we look for opportunities to unify. Like tomorrow night, our chief of police, Gary Sparks, is hosting an evening forum discussion about policing in our community. I love that we're able to sit together and have those conversations. And Juneteenth is this Friday and Friday evening. Councilman Samuel Davis is hosting an event 4 to 8 p.m. down at O'Neill Plaza to bring us all together. And those kind of things are very meaningful. And I love that about our community.
Great. If we could respectfully, I would give you guys both big hugs right now. And maybe one day. Maybe one day.
Yeah.
James, James, we can fist bump at the gym next time I see you there.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Just a heads up, everybody. We will not have Chamber Connect next week. Someone is going on vacation. So don't tell anybody. But so we'll be back the last week, the 29th, with another speaker. Again, thank you, James and Matt, for joining us today. You guys are awesome. Again, appreciate all that you guys are doing within your congregations and within our community. And I hope to see you all very soon. So y'all
Thanks,
have a great
Sarah.
day.
Thank you, Sarah.
See y'all.
Have a great day.
Thank you.